Wheel-to-wheel fights, cars off in the gravel, a busy night for the stewards, Sauber scoring their first points of the season, and the Constructors Championship battle is still alive. Qatar was crazy.
The Dutch driver will see the checkered flag first, and Max Verstappen cruises over the line to win his 9th Grand Prix of the year. Max Verstappen wins the Qatar Grand Prix.
Simply lovely, guys. Yes, 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 yes. What an unbelievable race again. That was really fun.
And we will see you next week for a title fight between McLaren and Ferrari.
It was a champion's drive from Max Verstappen to win here at the Lusail International Circuit. Welcome everyone to F1 Nation's review of an action-packed Qatar Grand Prix. I'm Tom Clarkson, and joining me in the paddock are Haas test and reserve driver Pietro Fittipaldi and F1 TV lead commentator Jacques. I don't know where to start with this one, guys. Jacques, initial reaction from you?
Initial reaction was, we had a tiny feeling that it might be a bit of a snooze fest, and then by the end, I attempted to do a summary and commentary about what we'd seen, and I was like, this was a massive mistake because so much has happened. So I'm going to be delighted to be reminded of what exactly happened through that Grand Prix. I love that moment between Lando and Max, 200 miles an hour for the Grand Prix win. That is why we live for Formula One, and that was a great moment amongst so much that happened. And hey, we've got a last race decider.
We have indeed. And Pietro, it was incident-packed. How was the view from the Haas garage?
It was busy, honestly. I wasn't even paying too much attention to who won the race because we were so busy seeing where Gasly was and how that was affecting the Constructors Championship, because obviously finishing P6 for us is a massive improvement in terms of budget for next year for the team, even for the employees. Everybody gets bonuses, so everybody's motivated for us to finish in 6th. And it was tough today because we executed very well with Kevin, but that safety car just came out at the wrong time, and then boom, Gasly finished P5. So it's going to be tough going into Abu Dhabi.
Great race for Kevin Magnussen, finishing P9. But let's start at the front and get some reaction from our race winner, Max Verstappen. Here's what the world champion made of his 9th victory of the 2024 season.
In the first stint as well, with Lando being there, the gap has been between 1.6 and 1.9 seconds the whole stint, which you can't afford, to make a mistake. And he didn't, I didn't, and we were just pushing flat out at one point. And it was honestly really enjoyable to drive because, of course, most of the races that we do, the tires deck and you have to manage a lot. It felt like here you could push a bit harder. And the track as well, the layout, I enjoy a lot. The grip is very good on the track. So pace was good. A dry race like this for us has been a long time. So I'm very happy with the improvements that we made compared to the start of the weekend.
How much of a surprise was it over those 57 laps?
Yeah, I mean, the last few races in the dry, we haven't been particularly strong on managing the tires. And that's why I was a little bit careful after qualifying. But yeah, it's been nice. I mean, it's still not where I would like it to be in terms of behavior of the car compared to, let's say, last year. But at least now, we are back in a fight to win races. So if we can just learn from this year's car, take the positive, of course, from also last year and try to build a better car, I'm sure that we can be, again, very competitive next year.
Max, we've seen a huge swing in performance by you and Red Bull this weekend. In your experience in Formula One, is this the biggest swing you've witnessed in a single weekend?
It's probably been one of the biggest, where you're fighting a Haas in the sprint to fighting for the win in the main race. So it's been quite a big swing in performance.
How did Max Verstappen win this race? Because I think we all came into Qatar and the point was only proven in the sprint when it was a McLaren 1-2. How did Max Verstappen win this Grand Prix, Jacques?
Sergio Perez did a lot of groundwork in that sprint, swapping the nose, trying different settings, doing some data, great improvement into qualifying. If you get Max Verstappen into P1, doesn't matter what he's driving, doesn't matter if he's driving a wheelbarrow, you know that there's going to be a chance he can hang on to it. His racecraft is so immaculate, it's such a long way around the outside, you're never going to be given the room. So can you get the move to the inside? Turn 1 here, that's really tricky. There's no way you're passing Max Verstappen at any of the other corners. So as soon as he got the lead, It was a huge task for anyone else to get by. Great start. It was clear in the first 100 metres he was going to have that inside line for turn one. And the others were searching for answers that they didn't find.
Jacques, I was incredibly impressed by the turnaround that Red Bull have managed this weekend, but also the champions mentality, right? They've won the title last weekend. Max then, I think, misses a complete night's sleep on the Saturday night in Las Vegas.
Solid celebrations.
Solid, very solid.
Very good work.
And yet they come here and the appetite is still there, isn't it?
It's in his DNA. It's in their DNA. And when you've got a generational talent behind the wheel, like we saw with Michael Schumacher at Ferrari, for example, just set standards that be very, very hard the day that he eventually leaves the team for them ever to discover that magic again. Because for me, this is a step forward compared to the Sebastian Vettel era. This is
in what way?
In the way that this car is not guaranteed to win races. He's won 9 Grand Prix this year. We've had 6 other drivers winning, right? No one else has got to 4. Right? It's just relentless. He's only lost 1 dead rubber. So he wins the championship. The races that come after, he's only been denied on 1 occasion after he's won the title. He only knows pushing in one way, and it drives the rest of the team forward. There's no lost cause.
And Pietro, do you think this is obviously it's a huge relief for Red Bull to win a race in the dry, first time for 5 months. I believe a lot in momentum in sport. And I think for Red Bull to have refound their dry pace at this stage of the season, going into the winter, is ominous for next season. What do you think?
I think for sure it gives everybody a lot of motivation that what they're doing or what they've tried to fix for performance in the car is working. So if you go into the off season, with a win recent under your belt, it just adds motivation and adds confidence to everybody that's working towards making the car better. It means that the tools you're using to make it better is working. So, and I think confidence plays a huge part, not only for the drivers, but everybody else in the team, the mechanics, the engineers. I mean, I saw it last year with Haas when we were struggling, just everybody's confidence was kind of down in the team. And I'm there only as reserve driver, but even just looking at the mechanics and stuff, and when we're doing well and we're fighting for 6 in the Constructors Championship this year, you can see that everybody is just a little bit more motivated, and those little bits it adds up at the end for sure.
And happier to burn the candle at both ends, right? You'll put that last whatever it is you need in to get the job done. Now you've already talked, Jacques, here about once Max Verstappen's in the lead, right? But we've actually come down to McLaren to record this pod just to try and sort of see what the vibe is. I feel the vibe is very positive, but people are all in their debriefs at the moment. But had Lando Norris not had that 10-second stop-go penalty for the yellow flag infringement, could he have won this Grand Prix?
Yes, if he got to the inside. Because he's never going around the outside of turn 1.
Yeah, I thought he might have learnt that in Austin, actually.
So he's got the momentum. It's good defensive driving from Max. He knows he's never getting by on the outside, but he had multiple chances. He was running no more than 2 seconds back for the entirety of the Grand Prix until we had the safety car intervention. He was in undercut range. Obviously, the safety car comes out. That chance goes away. Verstappen was beginning to elongate that gap. Good effort on the restart, but yeah, he needed to get to the apex first and not go the long way round. I don't think that looked likely, but he would have had multiple chances if we'd not got the penalty.
So that penalty dropped Lando right down the order from P2, but he fought his way back to take P10 and the fastest lap, so got a couple of points. Not slowing down under yellow flags, Pietro, is a big deal. It's unsafe. The regs state that you have to be prepared to slow down, even stop on a double-waved yellow. But a 10-second stop go? What was your take on that?
I thought it was harsh. I do see why they do it, though, because it's a safety thing. If there's a yellow flag, I mean, they want to make sure that the drivers don't take any chance of risk of just going a little bit too quick. And I think that's why they put such a harsh penalty, because then it becomes a thing of, it's not like you gain advantage on track by doing track limits. It's like a safety hazard because another car is, maybe someone crashed. So that's why you need to slow down. So I think that's why they made it so aggressive, because it's, at the end, it's something that involves safety. But when I initially saw it, 10-second stop and go penalty, that's huge. He finished in 10th, but when I saw that, I was like, oh, race is over, because 10 seconds stop and go, that's like, you lose like 40 seconds or something.
Yeah, that's a 30-second plus penalty. You need to be penalised for not lifting under yellow flags. That is a rule that applies in any circuit racing on Earth, not just Formula One. You have to pay attention to the marshal signals, otherwise people can get hurt. That is a very harsh penalty. And in commentary, I asked David Coulthard, Jolyon Palmer, did you agree with the one-place penalty for Max Verstappen after qualifying? Did you agree with the penalty severity for Lando? And did you agree for, spoilers, we've not got to them yet, but Mercedes and Lewis with the drive-through? And they didn't agree with any of them because they feel are slightly disproportionate. You know, you're getting people penalised quite severely for things that might have been dealt with even in reprimands. George ignored yellow flags, Baku. Reprimand. Everyone. Do you remember when Verstappen had the punch at 2021 in Baku? The whole field went past under double-waved yellows. You know what the penalty was that day? Absolutely nothing. And I think when you're getting such extremes in such a short space of time in terms of years, that's where the confusion comes.
Jacques, we've had some harsh penalties this year. I think back to Melbourne and, you know, Alonso got a 20-second penalty.
Yeah, no contact that day.
Well, to quote Oscar Piastri, for creating a bit of dirty air for George Russell.
That's racecraft, isn't it? That was severe as well. George Russell hit the wall, so that was one of those where it's like, you know, are you penalising what happened rather than the action of it? But yeah, severe stuff. I mean, the frustration for Lando is that if he'd lifted off and lost a 10th, he would have not been penalised by 30 plus seconds.
Do you think Max alerting the stewards over the radio had an influence?
This is the crux of the matter for me. I cannot be certain that that would have been penalised unless Max had cricket style turned round and appealed to the umpire. Fully within his rights to do that. Everyone does that all the time on the radio. That happens more than we broadcast, by the way. That is happening way more. You only hear certain selected radio messages on the broadcast. He's fully within his rights to do that, but that's a key question as we go forward with a brand new race director.
And I tell you what it shows, Pietro, is that Max Verstappen has it all covered, doesn't he? That's why he's a 4-time world champion, because whilst driving on the limit with Lando Norris 1.5 seconds behind him, going into one of the quickest corners on the lap, he's still able to come on the radio and alert his team as to whether Lando is actually slowed down during that double wave yellow.
Exactly. He has it all under control. That's why he's won 9 races this year with a car that at times shouldn't be the car winning the race, and he's able to hustle another world championship to his belt. So I think that is definitely the complete driver status, in my opinion.
This episode is sponsored by Shopify. And that's the sound of success with Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform built to help you start, run, and scale your business. Whether you're selling custom sneakers, handmade ceramics, or even eco-friendly skincare, Shopify makes it simple to sell online, in-store, or across social media marketplaces like TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. With an easy-to-use interface and zero need for coding or design skills, Shopify puts you in complete control. Manage your business with a sleek POS system, streamline operations with powerful analytics, and grow your brand effortlessly with their all-in-one e-commerce tools. Plus, their award-winning support and resource library are always on hand to guide you every step of the way. Whether you're launching your first product or scaling up to meet global demand, I love how Shopify is there to empower you at every stage. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up to a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/nation, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/nation to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.co.uk/nation. Let's now move on to the Constructors Championship, because that penalty and loss of points for Lando and McLaren means the battle is going down to the final race of the season in Abu Dhabi. Oscar Piastri finished P3 in Qatar, but with Charles Leclerc ahead in second place and Carlos Sainz in sixth, Ferrari are now just 21 points behind McLaren, ahead of that season finale at the Yas Marina circuit. So let's hear from both camps. Piastri in a moment, but first, here's Charles Leclerc.
Today we've been quite lucky, but without what happened to Lando, we will have been very, very far off. And without the safety car, we will have been very far off in terms of race pace. We weren't fast. So I feel like Abu Dhabi should be better for us. So I hope so. But we'll wait and see. But it's not too many points between us. So we've just got to focus on ourselves and try to maximize everything. And hopefully we'll bring back the title to Maranello.
And what about the Drivers' Championship? What would P2 in that mean to you?
I mean, that would be cool. It's better than P3, but it's not the most exciting position to fight for. However, on a year like this, where it's been very tricky for the team and we've went through very difficult times, it will be still a satisfaction to get that P2. So I'll still do absolutely everything to get it, but the constructors is more important.
Charles, thank you for that. Oscar, let's come to you now. Very well done. Your 8th podium of the season. What is the mood in the camp about the pace of the car? Because coming into this weekend, tell me if I'm wrong, but there were feelings within McLaren that you would be competitive. This is a track that would suit the car. Did you expect to have a little bit more pace relative to the opposition?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the track this year is very different to last year in terms of the grip level. I think our car in certain conditions is quite different to last year as well. And I feel like some of our strengths that we had last year are not really strengths anymore because everybody else has caught up to us. And I feel like some of our weaknesses are not really our weaknesses either. And I feel like it's a much more well-rounded car, but I think also maybe the grip level has taken away some of our strengths that we've had in the past here.
You say it's a well-rounded car, so what does that mean for Abu Dhabi next week? How do you see the battle with Ferrari?
Hopefully going well for us. I think it will be a track that's stronger for Ferrari, I would say. I was maybe a little bit surprised at the pace they had today. But I don't think we'll be slow next week either. I think it will be a good battle. I think the top 4 teams at the moment are very, very close on their days. So, yeah, I'm expecting more of the same next week.
We're at McLaren. I feel very sorry for Oscar Piastri because he pitted at just the wrong time today, which meant Charles Leclerc got the jump on him. But it still doesn't get away from the fact that the field was a lot closer to McLaren than I think they expected coming into the weekend.
I think that's a fair assessment. I completely concur with that. I honestly expected them to be 1-2 in both races this weekend.
And the sprint did nothing to dispel that.
No, because it was so close and they had to work in tandem to keep that 1-2 result. And George was, 4 tenths away from stealing it on the line there. So, optimization required. If you take a wider view, though, no one quite knows what they've got underneath them, do they? Mercedes completely surprised by what they faced and turned up with in Vegas. Ferrari expecting to go very well there. We expected this to be McLaren. Red Bull have won the Grand Prix. Gloriously unpredictable.
And look, give us the Ferrari perspective now, Pietro. They have come away having closed the gap to McLaren at a track where they knew their car wasn't going to be good.
I think it's great going into last race. You're going to have a showdown, for the Constructors Championship, which is very exciting. People don't realize it, but because everybody focuses a lot on the Drivers' Championship. But the Constructors Championship is very important for all the teams, not just financially, but a pride. I don't remember the last time Ferrari won a Constructors Championship. It was a very long time
2008.
ago. Yeah, and McLaren as well. I think it was even
98.
Yeah. So it's been a long time. So to be able to, even if you don't win the Drivers' Championship, but to be able to come away from a season looking into the next one and being like, we won the team's championship, that's a huge deal. So I think it's great. Ferrari put themselves in a good position to try to steal it from McLaren in the final race at Abu Dhabi. It's going to be exciting to see how it goes there. I think Ferrari are going to have at least, I know they were competitive here, but a more competitive package even so in Abu Dhabi.
And pressure is a funny thing in this sport, isn't it? McLaren still have a 21-point lead. It's still very much advantage McLaren, but pressure just creates funny things in that pit lane, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, and sometimes, like, for example, us today, like, we had a comfortable lead over Alpine, and then 2-3 weeks ago, whatever, in Brazil, they finish on the podium, and then they're right up with us, and then everybody is a little bit more tense, and maybe you make decisions a little bit more emotionally. I think the emotions play a big role, but I think McLaren, they're extremely top team, and they're led by Andrea Stella, which I respect very much, and I think that he's a perfect guy to make sure that they're under composure and make the right calls in Abu Dhabi.
21 points going into the final. That's still a very decent margin. I think it's the unpredictability will worry them a little bit. If you find yourself shuffled back and you're the fourth fastest team against expectations, then suddenly there's a possibility for that point swing to happen. But they've put together a fantastic season. If you consider that they'd spent 10 years effectively in the doldrums, no one thought that anyone other than Red Bull was going to win this Constructors Championship at the start of the campaign. So it's been a remarkable turnaround. It's been great to see, and it's great overall for Formula One that we get a title decider in Abu Dhabi.
Absolutely. Although I thought it was interesting this weekend that Andrea Stella came out on the record as saying everyone's closed up.
Yeah.
If we're going to have another shot at this in 2025, we need to make another step over the winter. We haven't done enough.
Yeah, and ultimately that's what cost them a chance at the Drivers' Championship by a slow start. If everyone else figures out their development over the winter and they make another slow start, it's going to be very hard on the evidence of the last 15 races to claim the championship with a slow start in 2025.
And I think it's consistency that has won them if they win it.
Yeah.
The championship this year, right? Whereas, let's move on to Mercedes now. We've seen moments of utter brilliance. Look at Las Vegas last weekend. Look at George Russell starting this race from the front row. He said, this is where we expected to be this weekend, whereas Vegas was above our expectations. But we've seen peaks and troughs from them. Were you surprised by their pace today? Did you think George Russell would be closer to it?
Yeah, completely. I thought they both were. I thought we'd see them both on the front foot again. I thought we'd see them attacking. I didn't think George would lose the lead off the start. I certainly didn't think he'd fade completely out of contention like he did in that opening stint. If we had a green flag race, he was going to really struggle. They obviously went aggressive with the strategy to try and compensate for that. Then the slow pit stop, then dropped back, not in the gap, but into traffic up against Fernando Alonso. But yeah, I think they were caught out. They still don't fully understand that car, do they?
It's an enigma, isn't it? Although I felt they were getting there. I did feel they were getting there, the consistency that we've seen over the last couple of races. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes for them in Abu Dhabi. George Russell being Mr. Consistent, no doubt about that. Lewis Hamilton, on the other hand, was so fast in the race in Vegas last weekend, and yet he said after sprint qualifying here in Qatar, I'm not fast anymore. Then he was coming on the radio during the race today. Do you want me to park the car? I think was the question. I'm not quoting him verbatim, but that was the sort of implication of the message.
Yeah.
He's not in a good headspace again.
No. I'd take the widest view possible on this that you could. He started in 2007. He's been a winning machine. He is going through an incredibly tough period. He's approaching 40 years of age. This is an emotionally draining thing to do, elite sport, for this long. And he sounds emotionally at 0% battery. He sounds like a driver who needs a change of scenery, and he sounds like a driver who needs a few weeks off, because I don't think I've ever heard him that low on the radio in the entire time I've been watching his Formula One career. So I think the Ferrari move has come at a great time for him, because he seems utterly done with this year. But you have to take the wider view and understand that competing at the top in Formula One since 2007 is a really tough thing to do.
100% agree, and I think that the move to Ferrari, as you said, comes at a perfect timing, because he just needs a bit of a reset. You know, I think that extra motivation to going to race for a team he's never raced for before. It's Ferrari, you know, it's a different culture in there than what he's been racing for the past, 7-8 years. So it's something that I think came at a perfect time and just gives him that extra motivation to new car, completely different driving style than what he's used to, different engineers, different mechanics, and let's see how that goes.
Are you concerned about his lack of pace over one lap?
No, I mean, because every driver is so sensitive to how the car feels to them. It's all about confidence, right? And you're talking about half a second. I think that was a gap in qualifying, but it's so quick. Half a second, sometimes it's like half a tenth in this corner, half a tenth here, half a tenth there. So it's not a lot. And if you don't have that confidence, or if you just can't manipulate the car the way you want to extract lap time, because the car doesn't handle the way that's going to suit your driving style, you're going to be a little bit off. So I think he has everything. We've seen it so many times. He has what it takes to win.
You're talking about normal racing drivers. If the car doesn't suit you, you're going to suffer. But we're not talking about a normal racing driver. We're talking about Lewis Hamilton, who can drive round problems. He's never struggled with a car like he has these ground effect cars. And I want to know why.
because he's also being put up against an extremely world-class driver, which is George Russell. He can
I
also...
see, back to this old thing. I've been saying all year that George Russell is one of the most underrated drivers on the grid. Still people talk about Lewis not doing a great job this year. They don't talk about George doing a brilliant job. It's about how Lewis is not doing a good job.
Yeah, I think George has been incredible at the end of the year. It's not been the easiest environment. They've known about Hamilton leaving for the entire year, so that's created a long time. If that had been announced in July, it would have been different to being announced at the very start of the season. For the whole season, knowing that scenario. George is doing the job. George is doing the job over one lap. It's the race pace that I think that's concerning for Hamilton, because the one lap thing, fine, okay, if you can't drive this generation of cars in the way that you used to be able to when you're a 30-year-old, that's one thing, but if the race pace goes, then he becomes a racing driver and not the 7-time world champion.
Do you think Ferrari are concerned about what they're seeing?
No, for a couple of reasons. You're getting a regulation reset in 2026, so if he just doesn't get on with this type of car, there's a brand new reg set and you can just run and just get him in the simulator and find a turnaround. Max Verstappen was asked about this earlier in the week. You never lose the core talent to win 7 titles, so age might mean a bit of depreciation, but I don't think they'll be concerned. And the other thing is, if he takes a year to get up to speed, one of the key things that's going to decide the driver's title next year is how they split the points. If Ferrari split the points 50-50 and McLaren split the points 60-40 either way, George Russell's got a rookie teammate next year. We don't know how Antonelli's going to do, but Max Verstappen will be taking the lion's share of points at Red Bull. So no matter how quick that car is, Max Verstappen will be taking the lion's share of it. So if Lewis takes a few races to get up to speed, it kind of has an upside for Ferrari if Charles Leclerc can deliver.
That's an interesting point in itself. Are you saying that it's as it gets closer in this regulation set, the teams have to adopt the Ferrari model of 20 years ago where you have to prioritise one driver or you're not going to win?
Yeah, well,
the championship.
You've got McLaren and Ferrari battling over a constructors' title when they've got nowhere near the driver's title. In reality, they've got nowhere near it. They never really got Max into the pressure zone, did they, of reducing it? So I think the balance between teammates is going to be defining for the driver's title.
Can we continue this theme? I think it's really interesting, right? We're just going to give our message to each of the team principals on the grid. If you are going to have to prioritise one driver in your team to take on Max Verstappen and Red Bull in 2025, who are you going to prioritise? At Red Bull, Max Verstappen's the man. At Ferrari next year, do you prioritise Hamilton or Leclerc?
I mean, that's such a tough call to make. I think you have to see how the first few races go, in my opinion. And then you understand who has slightly better pace, who's adapting to the car quicker. I don't think any team is going to decide before you get, the first few races under your belt. You're not going to go into the season deciding we're going to prioritize this driver.
But Red Bull will.
I think that happens naturally.
I'm going to say it's not a decision, is it?
No.
You just read the timing page usually, yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on to this battle for P6, and you're exactly the man to discuss this with. Now, Alpine have taken a huge step in the constructor standings after Pierre Gasly finished a sensational 5th, it has to be said. Those 10 points take them 5 clear of you guys at Haas and 13 clear of VCARB. How difficult does it make the P6 battle for you now, Pietro?
It makes it really tough for us going into Abu Dhabi. As you said before, you'd rather be the hunted and not the hunter, right? Because now we have to do a perfect execution at Abu Dhabi and hope that Alpine aren't as competitive at that track.
And you guys need 6 points, because if you
If it
score
ties,
5,
they have the podium. So
on a count back, yeah.
Good point from Jake C.
Yeah.
Well done, that man.
So we need to score 6 points over Alpine. So at the end, if Alpine doesn't score any points, we need to finish 9th and 8th, which for us is still difficult because there's 4 teams that are quicker than us. That's already 8 places, right? So someone has to not do well out of those 4 teams and fall out for us to get those points.
Now, Hulkenberg had a great race in the sprint, in the points. K-Mag P9. Can I ask you about K-Mag? Because he's really come alive since he got the new bits in Austin. Have you seen a revitalised Kevin? Why do you think he's having a so much better time of it now than earlier in the year?
Because every driver has certain driving styles that if you kind of really maximize it, they can really extract more potential. And I believe with these new upgrades we have in the car, which is giving us a lot more rear security in the car. It's allowing Kevin to really maximize his potential. That's why when you ask about Hamilton, for sure, 7-time world champion, but every driver has a certain style that if you're able to get it in that window, they're just extremely fast. And Kevin is finally being able to get back in the window that we all know that he could do.
Pierre Gasly, P3 in Brazil, on the podium, qualifies P3 in Vegas, going well until the engine failure. P5 here in Qatar. I mean, I'm going to ask you about your driver of the day later, but I mean, the guy's on fire.
Yeah, delivering under very extreme pressure as well with Sainz behind in a Ferrari. Yeah, very impressive. The door was open for him today. The pace for P5 wasn't there, but he resisted the pressure really impressively. He's won the battle to stay at that team. One of them was always leaving. Ever since he's won that, you get the feeling the shoulders got been a bit broader. He's been backed by the management. And yeah, I think he's feeling that role. He's feeling that responsibility, and he's taken them to the brink of that sixth place. The upside for Haas is this has been a season way above expectations. So, and the management and the operation of the team, you mentioned it, last year everyone a bit down. This year there's a pep in everyone's step. Haas are back contending for places in Formula One. So even if they miss out on sixth, the fact that they were even in that battle, a fantastic step forward from last year.
Pietro, can we talk about that man Esteban Ocon, because he isn't going to be driving for Alpine in Abu Dhabi. Jacques is going to be getting his debut for Alpine. Huge moment for him. Actually, do you know what? I unwittingly bore witness to this. I was interviewing Toto Wolff earlier today for a Future Beyond the Grid, and I was waiting outside his office, and I was told, don't go in. Because, and then out walks Esteban Ocon and all sorts of they'd been obviously having this big meeting, sorting out the future for Ocon. So he's going to be sitting out the final race. He is then going to be doing the Abu Dhabi test for Haas. I mean, in a way, it's a sort of similar situation, but for Ocon at Alpine as we're seeing for Hamilton at Mercedes, isn't it? It's really difficult when you know you're on your way out to just keep your mojo.
Yeah, it's not the same feeling, right? Everybody knows you're leaving. There's some information that's kept from you. It's just natural that it's like that. I think it's an interesting call by Alpine because they're obviously fighting for sixth in the constructors, and maybe, I don't know if that's not that important for them, but it's still equivalent to like 10-15 million euros for a team if they finish from finishing 7th to 6th. That's added to their budget for next season. So to make that call for the last race, knowing that any point can matter. I know Jacques can do a great job, but going into his first Formula One race and
no pressure,
having all this stake on the table, it's a lot of pressure. So when I heard about the news, I wasn't sure if it was real or not, and it's pretty bold in my opinion.
Jacques was expecting to do FP1 anyway, so congratulations. A few more sessions behind the wheel. Great for him, great for the Doohan family. These motor racing journeys, as Pietro knows, take a long time to put together, so when you finally get your debut in Formula One, it's something to really be celebrated. He's a class act. He's been plugged into the team for a really long time. Anything he does is a bonus, right? And then gets him running behind the wheel. That's an extreme way for your partnership with the driver that won you the Hungarian Grand Prix in 2021 to be shown the door. They've been making some pretty strong management moves, haven't they, at Enstone?
Well, and I mean, as I said to you a moment ago, there's only 5 points the difference between Haas and Alpine. We were talking before Las Vegas about what a big call it is for Rui Marquez to come in with only 3 races of the season remaining as the race director for the FIA. Jacques coming in at the crucial moment in the Constructors Championship for Alpine. I mean, you watched all of his F2 races, you watched all of his F3 races.
Yeah, he's very good at Abu Dhabi, so that might have played a part. That might have played a part in it. I don't know. I think it's a very 1990s thing. Hey, we brought back stop-go penalties. Hey, we're dropping drivers with 1 to go. I mean, it's not usual, but he has won in F2 around Abu Dhabi. He is impressive around there. Team have also, I believe, run him there in private testing in the past, so they've got data on what he can do there, so it might not be quite as mad as it sounds, but yeah, huge pressure on his shoulders.
Flavio Briatore, Oliver Oakes are, as you say, making some big calls. We should also acknowledge the job that VCarb are doing at the minute. They are still in the battle for P6. I mean, slightly difficult weekend here. Yuki Tsunoda finishing 13th today, Liam Lawson 14th. I feel when I look at the three cars, Haas, Alpine and VCARB, I feel that VCARB is the slowest of those three cars now. Is that the feeling at Haas?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think in one lap raw pace and qualifying, they can get pretty close and can, put in a good lap. But in race pace, they just seem to have just higher degradation, which was the issue we had with our car last year. We were able to qualify very well, but then we just didn't have the proper race pace and the right package to run well in dirty air, which is when you're in traffic with turbulence. You need a car that produces a lot of downforce to keep the tires underneath you, and they're struggling, especially in the races.
Our next partner on this episode of F1 Nation is Masterclass. For a gift that's always on time and lasts a lifetime, you can't do better than Masterclass. On Masterclass, your loved ones can learn from the best to become their best with lessons taught by world-class instructors across more than 200 topics. Imagine learning strategy and decision-making under pressure from Chris Voss, or helping a loved one to unlock their creative potential with innovation lessons from science icons like Bill Nye. There's even a class on mental toughness and focus, skills every F1 driver, engineer and fan can appreciate. But it isn't just for racing enthusiasts. Masterclass has something for everyone, whether it's perfecting a favourite recipe with Gordon Ramsay or writing a screenplay with Aaron Sorkin. There's no better way to sharpen your skills or discover new passions. You can dive into bite-sized lessons on your phone, computer, or even in audio mode while you're on the go. And there's no risk. Every membership comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Masterclass isn't just about learning, it's about growth. And 88% of members say Masterclass has positively changed their lives. So don't just give your loved ones something they want this Christmas. Give them something they want to be. Masterclass always has great offers during the holidays, sometimes up to as much as 50% off. So head over to masterclass.com/F1Nation for the current offer. That's up to 50% off at masterclass.com/F1Nation. masterclass.com/F1Nation.
Welcome back to the top 10. Zhou Guanyu and Sauber, they've finally scored in 2024.
Oh my God, what a race, man, what a race. Car was mega. Really happy for you guys.
Great to hear the joy from Zhou Guanyu. He took P8 for 4 points. He's leaving Sauber at the end of the season, but he's made sure the team have something to show for their efforts.
It's been such a difficult season. I'm so happy for myself, a big relief also for me, for the team. It's different to what I felt what his scope was over the last few years, just because this year we came along from so far behind, There's relief inside and out. And myself, I was able to improve, but we can't show that in the final classification, which is just disappointing. And now we are here, much better place over the last weekend, this weekend, and then we got what we deserve for such a long time. I'm just really happy, one more to go for the team. I'm going to enjoy as much as I could and then show everyone what I can do before I'm not on the grid next year, and I hope for a comeback.
Sauber, let's talk about them, huh?
They ran really well. I was very surprised because at the end, Guanyu Zhou he finished P8. We were behind him and we couldn't catch him. He was 4 seconds ahead and he kept that gap, and he had really, really strong pace. So they definitely stepped it up because they were nowhere a few races ago.
Absolutely right. They introduced some new parts, and Zhou got his hands on them in Vegas last weekend, immediately went into Q2. And do you know, he's always been good here though, hasn't he? Do you remember he went from last to P9, I think it was, last year? He likes this racetrack, and I am so pleased for him, but for the team, right? Those 4 points, you don't want a big fat zero next to your name at the end of the season, do you?
You can't be pointless. It's Formula One, it's the pinnacle of motor racing. It sounds minor, but it's a big moment for everyone in the team, and he delivered. He was great all race. He was really strong all race long. Deserves that.
Yeah, and Valtteri I thought was quite racy as well, and I see absolutely no reason why they can't continue that momentum into the season finale in Abu Dhabi. So well done to Zhou. Also, both of those drivers are out on their ear next year. Neither of them has a race seat in Formula One. There's talk of Zhou maybe becoming the third and reserve driver at Ferrari. I don't know what Valtteri's plans are, maybe going back to Mercedes.
I think that's likely.
Is he tapping on the door at Red Bull a bit still?
No.
Actually, as I mention Red Bull, Checo Perez I'm afraid, continued in the same vein this weekend, didn't he? There was no... He said after Vegas, I think we're close to resolving all my problems. Well, there was no evidence of that here, was there?
No, not in the way that he would need to continue running in that team for what they need, which is a sad thing to say. 6-time Grand Prix winner, had some great days, but I don't think he's going to be continuing with that team.
Right. So who are they going to put in alongside Max Verstappen? And I'm going to revisit the Valtteri Bottas thing that I just mentioned to you, Jacques, and you said no, but actually, name me someone better than Valtteri Bottas who is available.
I could name you lots of people. Helmut Marko doesn't think he's any good, so it's not going to happen. And that's the reality, that however the power dynamics shift at that team, Helmut Marko has never thought he was a top driver.
But, well, I think we need Helmut to come and sit down next to us, because you don't need, when you've got Max Verstappen in the other car, what you want is a quick, consistent, apolitical driver.
To put it in the top 5.
To put it in the top, bang it into the top 5 and win you the Constructors Championship.
2-3 of a second away from Max's best time in qualifying, put it in the top 5, gets you close to the Constructors Championship.
Bottas?
I think he's a very talented driver. He was brilliant for Mercedes at doing that. They're not going in that direction, are they?
Okay, well, which direction do you think they're going in? Yuki Tsunoda?
I don't think they've ever rated him truly. I think Yuki's had 4 years in Formula One at that point because of the connection with the Honda program. I think Yuki's got an incredibly high ceiling of performance. I think they might worry about his consistency. And it's a similar thing. There are differences of opinion there, which is why I think it's taken them a while to resolve it.
How significant is Yuki's post-season test for the team in Abu Dhabi? If he can bang in 30-lap stints within 2 or 3 tenths of each lap after lap, would that sway them?
I'm not sure, but they're taking their time, aren't they? So maybe if he has an incredible test, remember how much they talked up Daniel Ricciardo's test when he jumped in the Red Bull at Silverstone last year, and they were like, oh, he's really close to pole.
But on the strength of that test, he was back in the V car.
So there's a possibility.
But who else is there then?
I think it will be Lawson or
Yuki.
I don't think it will be anyone else from the outside.
I agree, and it's tough because Checo's my friend, so I want him to continue. I hope he continues, but I do agree with you guys that they're going to get someone from within their pool of drivers.
Pietro, I get he's a friend, and I really like Checo Perez, and I always thought he was a sensational Formula One driver. I remember Andrew Green, the technical director of Racing Point, telling me that he has traction control in his right foot. He's so brilliant at putting the power down and looking after the rear tires. But I hate seeing him like this.
No, I hate it as well. It's not good to see, and yeah, maybe it is for the best of him if he doesn't continue next year, But, as a friend, and I know he's a racer, I know he wants to race. So I think we'll know soon what's going to happen. But if they do choose to go with someone else, then it's going to be within their pool of drivers. And I would have put Tsunoda, to be honest. I think the test that they're going to do in Abu Dhabi, you can definitely tell, but it's so hard to compare the test with the track, because with the race weekend, because the track evolves and you're not using the same engine settings most of the time and sock settings that you use, which is the battery setting you use in the race. So it's always hard to get like a full comparison, like, oh, he's close to the pole lap or the race time. But I think just by looking at some of the data, they can get an indication of if he's doing a decent job.
So the top 10 looked like this. Verstappen took his 9th win of the season ahead of Leclerc in 2nd and Piastri in 3rd. Russell dropped from pole to P4, while Gasly took that sensational P5 for Alpine. Sainz recovered from a puncture to P6 ahead of Alonso in 7th, and Zhou getting his first points of the season in 8th. Magnussen was 9th, and Norris charged back to P10 after his stop-go penalty. In the Drivers' Championship, this is how the top 10 looks. Max Verstappen increased his already unassailable championship lead over Lando Norris to 80 points, and Norris's P10 finish allowed Charles Leclerc to close within 8 points of him with just 1 race to go. Piastri's podium here in Qatar strengthened his 4th place in the standings. He's now 19 points ahead of Sainz in 5th. Then come the 2 Mercedes drivers, Russell 24 points ahead of Hamilton, Perez is 8th, Alonso 9th, and Hülkenberg is 10th. There's still all to play for in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren's lead over Ferrari has been reduced to 21 points. while Red Bull Racing are no longer in the title fight back in third. Mercedes are fourth and Aston Martin are fifth, and then there's the intense battle for P6. Alpine lead Haas by 5 points, with VCARB 8 points further back. Williams are 9th and Sauber 10th, but Sauber are no longer on 0. They have 4 points following Zhou Guanyu's 8th place finish here in Qatar.
Immense focus and determination and unrivaled talent. The 21-year-old British driver from Lincolnshire, Abbi Pulling, makes history, becoming our 2024 F1 Academy champion. What a moment for her, what a moment for her family, for all of her supporters.
Job done. Great job. Well done. You are champion.
Thank you so much to every single person. My family, my dad. Champion!
Abbi Pulling became the 2024 F1 Academy champion here in Qatar. She needed just 18 points to take an unassailable lead over title rival Dorian Pan ahead of the final round in Abu Dhabi, and that is exactly how many she got for P2. With 7 pole positions, 7 race wins and 11 podium finishes so far this season, I caught up with Abbi to see how she feels after winning the title in such dominant fashion.
I'm just so proud of what myself, but also the team have achieved. You know, they deserve it so much. They've really pushed me forward and given me everything I've needed to achieve this, and it's as much for the people around me as it is for me.
Can we just break down your season? Because you've been on the podium in every race. Have you had that level of success in your career before?
In karting, yeah, I think, funnily enough, it replicates pretty similar to my last season in karting where I won the championship. I was never off the podium in every main final. I was in the top 3, so it's come full circle a little bit. I've been saying I've always known that I've had it in me to do something like this. It's a special feeling, I think, to be so dominant and doing it in the way that we have. It's been a bit of a statement this year, and I felt like I had a point to prove, and I wanted to show what I was capable of, and I think I can say that I've done that.
You've definitely done that. And what's it done to your confidence behind the wheel? Do you feel like you're driving better than ever?
Yeah, I mean, even last year I was quite confident in my ability. I think it's always been there. It just didn't come together for one reason or another last year, whether it was in my control or out of it. It just wasn't meant to be, and it really shaped me. I really had to dig deep, and going into this year I did a lot mentally and to reset and go in almost with a mindset of nothing to lose, even though I had everything to lose. I had to win this year because I needed that funded prize for next year. There was a lot of pressure riding on this. If I wasn't to win, I don't even want to think about it. I probably wouldn't be continuing. So it means a lot, and it's just a dream.
It's a pivotal moment, make or break.
Exactly, yeah, exactly, make or break.
Well, let's look ahead to next year. You say fully funded ride in GB3. Just tell us a little bit about that championship and what that means as well.
It's a really cool championship, really cool car. They've got an upgrade for next year, so they've got like 35% more downforce, 30 more horsepower. I think it's nearly 300 horsepower next year. It's a lighter car, bigger tyres. It's a really cool upgrade, and that's from the last car. That's not even from the F4 car I've been racing this year. It's a much bigger step from what I've raced this year. So I'm looking forward to kind of getting a whole season in that kind of machinery. I mean, I never dreamt, I'd even get to where I am now. So to be able to go on the next step and move up the ranks and continue with a team like Rodin Motorsport as well, they won the championship last year in GB3. They're really well renowned. Obviously, they've took me to the championship this year. I'm part of their family, definitely, and I'm looking forward to taking on the challenge next year with them.
And Abbi, can we just talk about the bigger picture, you and F1 Academy and what you've done? Because this year alone, there's been a 25% increase in the female intake going into karting. Does that make you feel proud?
Incredibly proud. When I started karting, it was me. I was one of the few females. There was a few every now and then, but predominantly it was just myself. And the change that F1 Academy's done, I always say it's even if it's not me that gets to Formula One, hopefully it's the girl watching, the young girl watching, because what it's done is increase the female participation numbers by like 25%, as you said. So it's such a huge number, and I didn't think we'd ever see that, and it's just nice to see. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, for sure. It takes time, and it's going to keep progressing and getting better and better. But to be one of them people, you know, I'm in the history books and with F1 Academy, but also, you know, helping carve the future. And I think that's something so special. And I'm just, you know, stood here now. I'm speechless. I'm so proud to have done that. And like I say, I hope that it's inspired the next female Formula One driver, or I'm racing amongst the female Formula One driver, or I become one. You know, it would be super special.
All right, Abbi, many congratulations on a great season.
Thank you very much.
Well, guys, it's been a hell of a weekend again. Let's talk about driver of the day. Who is it? Zhou Guanyu got the vote on the telly.
I'm going to back the public. I'm really pleased for Zhou Guanyu. It's not easy. He's been last on the grid so many times. He knew that this might be his last ever chance to mix it properly in the fight. In Formula One, he took it and he put his team in the points, which is a reward, because sometimes you put all the hours in and you're celebrating, and sometimes no one notices you, and he gave them a day to celebrate.
100% agree, and I think he did an amazing job. 4 points today for the team, incredible, and yeah, I think it's good. You know, second to last race of the season, no points, and being able to bag P8 is fantastic.
Hey, I agree, utterly brilliant from Zhou. But just to give people something else to think about, I'm going to throw in Pierre Gasly. Qualifies, he starts the race 11th. He was just perfect. And as you mentioned earlier in the pod, Jacques, he had Carlos Sainz in a much faster car behind him, and he kept him at bay. The more I watch that Alpine, the less I understand, because it was really quick in Vegas, and that's a horsepower track. It's got the Alpine in the back, which everyone acknowledges is the least powerful engine in Formula One. Pierre qualified 20th for the first race, and look at him now. And so it's been an amazing journey, and I feel his consistency and his never say die attitude is admirable. So he gets my vote.
Worthy as well. Great drive.
Jacques, before I let you go, a quick mention of F2. Just half a point separating F2 Championship leader Gabriel Bortoleto and second place Isaac Hadjar going into the final round in Abu Dhabi. Oh my goodness. You're going to be busy next week.
Oh, bring it on. I mean, it was an incredible scenario at the end of the F2 race, where it was either going to be a 6.5 point gap going into the final round of the season, or it was going to be a half-point gap. They were fighting it out. Bortoleto had a penalty. He was going to drop back. Was he going to drop back? 0.4 of a second, the difference between 6.5 points and half a point. And the half point, by the way, in Monza, in the sprint race, Dennis Hauger and Gabriel Bortoleto finished the race with the exact same time, and they had to split the 8th and final point down the middle, and that's what he leads by going into the title decider.
Oh, awesome work. Guys, thank you both very much for joining us. It's great to have you on the show. Glad we could make it happen, Pietro.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me, and yeah, we got to do it again soon.
All right, great. And Jacques, as ever, thanks for your time.
Cheers, man.
For more reaction and analysis from Qatar, go to f1.com, the official F1 app, and at F1 on social media. And in selected countries, you can watch all the highlights from this weekend's racing on F1 TV. And if you're doing your Christmas shopping, the official F1 store is the place to go for caps, team t-shirts, model cars, and lots more. Or if you want a very special gift, head to tickets.formula1.com and you can already book your seat at races in 2025. Go on, you know you want to. One last parish notice. This week's F1 Beyond the Grid is with Carlos Sainz. I recorded the show soon after landing in Qatar from Las Vegas, and Carlos really opened up, especially about leaving Ferrari and that move to Williams next year. The show will be out from Wednesday on your podcast app and on the F1 YouTube channel. Thanks very much for listening. We'll be back later this week with our preview of the season finale in Abu Dhabi. But for now, F1 Nation is produced by Formula One and Audio Boom Studios.